G'day, community, and welcome to the Jock Reynolds podcast. We're here to cover off all the round 7 action and look ahead to a big round 8. I'm Lekdog, and I'm joined by the one and only Patch. Patch, welcome back to the podcast. I bloody missed you.
Oh, I've missed you too, Lekdog. You wonderful human being, you excellent person. And yeah, it is good to speak to you properly again.
Oh,
how are you? What is crack-a-lackin', as the cool kids say these days?
well, I'm a happy man. I promised we wouldn't talk about the
I can
incident.
see why you've brought me on this week now. That's why I've been off for a month and you've been saving me and, Lekdog.
But it's good to go to the footy, good to go and see the Blues get a win. You went to the footy for the first time in a long time last week.
I did. I went to Anzac Day. It was very exciting, very good. Weird seeing that many people in the same spot for the first time in, 15 months or something. But, oh boy, was it nice.
Well, we're both very happy, aren't we? We're both very, very happy.
We are. There were still some good signs for the Bombers kids, so I'm not too mad on that front.
Boring.
Ooh.
Go Matt Owies, the next greatest small forward of all time. All right, we're going to talk Supercoach. I brought you on your back because we're both crashed to our ordinary Supercoach ways, and we're going to talk the community through how to tackle what is going to be an interesting round, I think, for the Supercoach community as a whole.
Yeah, this could very well be the week that pivots you kind of up or down. There's not a lot we can do there are bits and pieces we can do, but some of it will come down to luck. But to those of you despairing after scoring, 1900s like I did this week, or, even 1800s out there, I know there were plenty of people that were hit really hard by donuts, by bad rookie scores, by captaining Max Gawn, who had a very un-Max Gawn-like performance on the weekend. It's okay. You can bounce back from here, even if your rank is plummeting and it's down, 20,000, 40,000. You can still build that up to what I'd consider very respectable rank by season's end.
Oh,
You just need to stick in there.
Mate, it's not round 7 from last year. It's round 7 in 2021. We've still got, 16 rounds to go or something? There's plenty of football left to be played.
And there are plenty of trades to... Oh dear.
I was going to talk about this a bit later, but you mentioned Max Gawn. The rumour is, the word around the street is, that the Melbourne team went down to Tassie. They all went and did a Conrad Marshall, shout out to Conrad, and sat on the beach eating oysters. They all got sick. And this is the excuse they're going with. They all got sick from eating oysters, and that's why Max Gawn was a spud on the weekend. Couldn't do anything. Melbourne didn't start playing until 3/4 time, just about, or start of the third quarter. Apparently, it's oyster related. So they ate oysters, and I can tell you that I ate donuts.
Oh boy.
Travis Boak being out is, it's the sad thing. I had cover in defense. I did not have cover in the midfield. That's where we're at in 2021, baby.
Oh boy. And you know what? I had cover down back. I swung Rory Laird into the middle, covered that Travis Boak donut, and bam, Luke Ryan was out. And I ate a donut anyway. And
it's good to be back.
Let's
talk
to be back.
Injuries, because there's a couple of headlines. Skimming this all off Twitter, going into Honeyball as well to check out their injury list, the AFL injury list. There's a lot of great services out there. Dustin Martin reportedly coming back this week. He just has to pass his concussion test. Had a nice little jaunt over to New Zealand to see his dad. Didn't contract COVID and is coming back. So that's good news. That's good news for owners.
Borders haven't closed on him. It's good stuff.
Even if he does miss again, he's not a trade option. He's a hold. I'm worried slightly about that foot issue they've been mentioning, but they reckon he's fit and he's playing if he passes concussion.
And honestly, Dustin Martin on one foot would be better than every other forward on offer.
Well, pretty close. Pretty close.
Because I did the maths this week. I have 2 of the top 85 forwards selected in my forward line in Supercoach. And if that's not the level of, merit you need to get into my forward line, then that just speaks volume about the quality of player.
I'm
I've
actually
selected.
surprised you said the word merit, by the way, after his pleading with the umpire instead of playing defence on Paddy Cripps on the weekend. A very interesting tactic from Zach Merritt. I didn't want to bring
I
it up, but you did.
I didn't, but I don't know what he was doing, to be honest with you. I'm not quite sure. Perhaps he was trying to lay a shepherd and he was confused. I don't know what was happening.
He is still scoring okay, so I don't give a shit if he's complaining to the umpire. As long as he's pumping out 105 pluses,
I wish
I'm a happy
Patrick
boy.
Cripps was scoring, but we
Well,
won't
he's
go
not.
there, will we? We won't
Well,
go there.
we can go there. We can bring because I think it's not reported. I think we can mention it in the injury. I mean, in the injury ward, because I'm telling you, and I've been saying this for 2 years now, but I've been saying it a lot this year. The man still can't lift up his arm. He kicked that goal running in, bursting past Zach Merritt, kicks the goal, goes to celebrate, throws one hand up above his head. The other hand was like glued to his side. He can't move his arm. He is not healthy.
And I would trade him if I had any spare trades, but I don't, and I think you just got to hold him, and he's going to average 80, and it's going to hurt you each and every week. But there's not a lot you can do. Not a
And then
lot you can
next year
do.
we can talk ourselves into selecting him again.
Yes,
Let's
we can.
let's keep moving with the injuries. Travis Boak missed last week with a I can't remember what it was. Was it a calf injury? Bit of an old man injury.
Quad?
Quad. That's right. Quad and calf are very similar. All part of the
It's the
leg
leg.
bone.
The leg, and the leg bone is connected to the hip bone.
They've said they're not 100% sure, but they're pretty sure he's going to play this weekend. So he is a hold. Paddy Dow, if you still had him,
Why?
he was finally named on the ball. He was named in the game. He started pretty strong, and then he got injured. He copped one to the eye. Not a concussion, so a chance to play, but couldn't see through his eye. He's now priced at $192,200 with a break even of 58 patch. If you still had him, you probably shouldn't anymore.
Correct, but if you still have him, I wager you'd have much bigger problems with your team, because otherwise, why would you still be holding him?
That is a good point. Heath Chapman, another rookie that copped an injury, went off with a shoulder injury very early in the game and came back on and played through. He's now priced at $250,500. We thought he was going to be our ticket to Upgradeville. His break even now sits at 85, and he's barely scored 100 points over the last 3 weeks. In fact, he might not have even scored 100 points over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not great, and he'll be very good for us in the future. I think he's finished his service for the year. I'm not sure we're likely to see any decent cash generation, considering his last 3 games, 54, 36, 28, now losing cash, lost 18.7k on the weekend. That's not going to roll out of his average for some time to move him on. And we do have a rookie we can trade him to, which we'll talk about later. So I think it kind of lines up very nicely for Heath Chapman.
Yeah, he does look like he's probably going to be a trade option, but they do think he's going to play this week. Luke Ryan missed, kind of a surprise, $540,100 now with a break even of 101. Missed with a calf, and he's a test to play. They're not 100% sure if he's going to play this weekend.
No, they're not. I think it's not a long-term injury. They need him because every Fremantle defender seems to be going down injured. So I hope he's back. I wager he's back. If he's not, I'm eating another donut. And might have been saved if the AFL hadn't released the teams at 12:30 on a Sunday morning or whatever stupid time it was they released them for the Sunday games. But yes,
that was a schmozzle. The teams had been announced by the clubs, but the website hadn't been updated. So no one knew what was going on. And there was like 20 minutes till the game started. It was insane on Saturday, and it's a joke. And guess what? The AFL, we're recording this on Monday, put out a poll today, and they said there's a bit of debate around this. When do you want teams named? And it's like 99.9% responses are the Thursday. And then like a couple of memes have checked 24 hours before the games. And I said this last week, and I said it the week before, and I said it the week before that. I know the clubs want flexibility. They don't want to name players and then pull them out, but you've been doing it for 150 years. And the teams know who they're picking on Tuesday. They know. And guess what? If they don't know by Tuesday, they know by Thursday. They know who they're picking. It's
And
so annoying.
and we know the players that are under injury clouds because they've normally mentioned them, and they're normally pretty good at that. So, like, yeah, we know to expect the occasional laid out. Just give us the. Anyway, they've had 12,000 votes for Thursday night, and then maybe 1,000 for 24 hours out, which with a
They,
5.5%.
I know it seems like a trivial thing, but there's what, like, between fantasy and dream team and
Footy
super
tipping,
coach,
footy
there's like,
tipping.
yeah,
Like,
500,000 players, and then footy tipping, like half the population. I mean, I don't know that as a fact, but let's say half the population are bloody doing their tips.
what are you talking about around the water cooler on a Friday morning? If
Yeah.
like,
Oh, mate.
oh, did you see Buddy was named? No, you don't say that. It's like, oh, do you reckon Buddy will play? I don't know. It's 48 hours away. He could. Anyway.
It's upsetting. Let's push on. Let's push on, people. I know people like listening to us rant, but let's push on. A few injuries that aren't Supercoach relevant. I just wanted to chuck them out there for draft leagues. Adam Tomlinson, 290k now. He's out for the year, probably with a knee. Tom Barrass missed on the weekend, 419. He doesn't look likely to play again this week. Tom Rockliff just got announced he's going to miss heaps of time with a knee. He has been averaging about 700 disposals in the Sandful named emergency a couple of times. Hasn't been able to get in that team. And I've put Lachie Jones's name here at $139,000. The rookie, break even minus 47. I've put him here because he played those 2 games. He had the ankle injury, played on against the Blues. I've got him here purely because I went early on him. Drunken mistake. We make those. We move on.
We've all been there.
But this week or last week, they said he's had surgery and he's out for like his estimated return is like round 12 or something.
What?
Like, when did this happen?
What?
So if you've got him sitting on your bench, I'm going to pull up the quote on Honeyball. I'm pulling up
That's
Lachie Jones.
not
Had
good
successful
at all.
surgery. This is from the 27th of the 4th, so last week. Had successful surgery during the week after a syndesmosis injury. Estimated return around 10 to 11, and that's return to footy. So like another 2 weeks, 3 weeks till he's not coming back. He's not coming back into our Supercoach teams.
And I mean, even worse than not coming back into our Supercoach teams, we're not seeing that mullet on primetime TV for months.
I know. It's as big a disaster as Matt Rowell not being on the park.
Oh, it's tragic. Can you imagine Matt Rowell and Lachie Jones lining up on each other?
Can you imagine Matt Rowell with a mullet?
Oh, Lekdog. Save it for later.
All right, let's kick this Supercoach train on Patcharoo. Tex Walker. This is the note I've got in the run sheet. Tex Walker, spud again?
Potentially. I mean, we all knew it was going to happen. We knew that he'd started the year on fire and it would be a ride to the top and you'd have to just time your jump and time your leap. He scored 42 on the weekend and last week looked like it was the stop. That was the top of the roller coaster. And with Port Adelaide, West Coast, Melbourne and Richmond to come, I'd be jumping off that thing ASAP. It's been fun while it lasted. Tex, you're a magnificent specimen of a human, and I'm sorry for all the bad things I've said about you in the past, but the ride's over.
Yeah, so he's not now priced at $464,000. He break even of 132, lost 28 grand on the weekend, but overall has gained you 165 grand if you jumped on at the start. If you, because I was talking about him last week, and I was talking about him. Do we approach him as a premium? It seemed like he was a premium with 5 scores of 103 plus and an 85 in there. The 42 against GWS. Are we worried that Adelaide are going to start dropping off a bit? His delivery is going to drop off a bit, and that he was actually a cash gen tool and not a point scoring tool.
Correct. And then I think the fact that you look at the teams he's played, Geelong, he got the jump on, Sydney, young defence, Gold Coast, young defence, North, no defence, Fremantle, injured defence, Hawthorn, debacle. Giants are the first team with a proper, cohesive backline to actually combat him, and they know that they're looking for him inside 50, and they're linking through him through the top half of the ground as a proper traditional centre-half forward. Port Adelaide, West Coast and Melbourne are going to just shut him down. They know that a lot of the ball goes through him. Yeah, Richmond after that. They're just going to shut him down, shut down the delivery to him. They'll double team him. They'll lead up the space in front of him. You've got to jump off. I can see him averaging 50 over these next 4 games, and all that cash that you've made, all that hard work you've put in, that gamble you've taken will just come crashing down. And like you and I have been in this position before where we've had Tex Walker and unable to get rid of him. It's literally the worst. It's the worst. And I'd advise you to get yourself out of a position where you like that. I think he's back to his traditional spud scoring tendencies.
And it's an easy thing to say, Patch. It's a hard thing to do, probably. Lack of trades, injuries across the park, rookies not generating cash. If you got Tex Walker, you're probably banking on him being a long-term hold. He's still the third-ranked forward, which is super great, and he'll probably be the third-ranked forward for another 2 or 3 weeks.
He could he could average 50 and still be the third or fourth ranked forwards, but you're going to lose all that cash. Who do you trade him to? I don't know the answer. I don't know who you trade him to. Shai Bolton, who we might talk about soon. There are a few others we might discuss.
We'll cover off on some potential sideways trades.
I'd be getting
upgrades.
rid of him.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I just know it's going to be really hard for people to do that. And the form trend is showing that this 42 is the outlier this year. But when I look at him across his career, it's pretty apparent to me the 42 is not the outlier.
Oh, no.
It's the first 7 rounds were the outlier. We'll see. And we actually talked about this, Patch. I don't know if it was on air or off air or whatever, but teams are adapting to the new marking rules and making it much harder for teams to score that way, particularly poor teams. Scores are dropping. I just think we're going to see a trend. I think avoiding key forwards, this might just suddenly appear again as the number one tactic when picking forwards.
Yeah. I'm struggling to pick the good forwards, which is why I've only got 2 of the top 85 ranked forwards, but it's very hard to tell. I don't think Tex is in that top 8 by season's end, at least not from here on out. So I think cut and run, but can you afford to do that? Which, we're going to move into talking about the old trades. Should we be burning through those trades? Because I don't have many left, and it's round 7. Do you have many left?
Let me tell you how many
I know people that have used, after they've used trades this week, are down to like 17 or 16, which is not a lot of trades considering that's basically how many rounds we've got left.
Well, so I have 22 trades left. I've used 8 trades. But by not making many trades the last 3 rounds, I've dropped 10,000 spots in the ranks. So I'm trying to be conservative and hoping that people will burn through those trades later on and I can capitalize then. The flip side of that is people who are trading aggressively now, particularly those in the top 10 to 15,000, are all creating, or the top 10,000 are all creating a bit of a gap on me personally. So that's why this is here. Should we be burning trades, trading aggressively, trying to get rookies off the field when we've seen, 37 injuries this year? We've seen no bench cover from rookies. Rookies are, unless you nailed all your trades, are few and far between. I'm playing a conservative game and not really enjoying it. So
I'm playing the aggressive game, and also it sucks so much. It's the worst. This year's just been bad on the injury front. And my philosophy has been just keep on just hacking and slashing through it. And the sooner you get those premos, the more likely they are to play, because they're not going to get dropped. They're not on the fringes of sides. Your Travis Boaks will miss a week or 2 there, but it'll be through injuries. That's been my philosophy. Once I get to about 14 trades, 12 trades, I'll take the foot off the gas and make sure that, I've got cover, and then reassess and say, right, am I going to get to full primo? It's been hairy trades wise. If I'm not going to get to full primo by that stage, if the maths doesn't work out, then I'll pull back and I'll start looking for those Joe Danaher's, those really cheap sort of F5s and 6s, and deal with it that way. But from here on out, it's all about value in terms of making the most of those trades and targeting the cheaper primos, as opposed to going up to getting your Grundys if you started with a Flynn, or jumping up to get, your Jack McRae's at 660k. I think, I don't know if we're going to get a full team of everyone in the top 8 or top 10, but I am going hard to try and make sure that I've got as many premium players in that top bracket as possible.
Yeah, Damo. It was either on the Mailbag podcast or on the on this podcast last week. Was saying this year it feels like you're using 3 trades to turn a rookie into a premium, whereas in previous years it's taken 2 trades. And as a result, we should probably be targeting some more value players, guys like Brayshaw who turned it on. I wish I listened instead of trading in Adam Treloar, but I can't even tell you the thought process there. I thought it was a good idea. It wasn't. Um, I think Damo's right. I think you're right. I think we need to continue to, or coaches who have been aggressive need to continue being aggressive. I haven't been aggressive, and I'm kind of suffering for that. And if you're being aggressive, target those cheaper guys, because getting the uber-premos, if you don't have a Jack McRae, it sucks, and it's going to be really, really hard to get him. But maybe elevating the scoring profile of your team by getting McNeil and Jordan off the field, or whoever, Scott and Jordan off the field for Brayshaw and Shai Bolton is better than going one rookie and one McRae in. And yeah, I think we just got to look for value. And it doesn't have to just be fringe, like, oh, this guy might break out. There's plenty of fallen premiums who are going to be available on the horizon or even this week.
And I think the other side of that is you've got to nail your rookies. Like, you can't just go for, oh, this kid's on the bubble this week, let's trade in a Finn McRae. Just hypothetically off the top of my head, first rookie I can think of, not knowing their job security is rock solid.
Yeah, no, agreed.
And it, because we've had so many that just aren't playing, and rookies we thought were rock solid. Your Braden Campbells, your Tyler Brockmans, Tom Highmore, right? Tangent time. Has he got incriminating photos of someone? Has he run over a cat? What has happened to Tom Highmore? Is he alive? Has anyone seen him for the last 4 weeks?
Darragh Joyce syndrome. He showed he can play at the level, and then they said that's enough. That's enough. Back to the VFL with you.
That'll do.
Darragh Joyce played on the weekend as well, and he didn't. Well, I don't know. Hard to say. They smashed him, but I didn't feel like he played super well.
I mean, I'd like to Google Darragh Joyce to see how well he played. I don't know how to spell his name because it's just a lot of R's and G's. Darragh. He scored 40. But what has Tom Highmore done? Like, I'm convinced there's been a really bad mishap down at St Kilda, and they're trying to fix him and put him back together. And until they do, they're just going to be like, oh no, there's nothing to see here. There's been a spill in the back room, and the spill is just Tom Highmore in like bits and pieces as they try and put him back together.
I just don't understand it at all. I do not understand it. But back to your point of...
What was the point I was making? Something about
trading in rookies who we know are going to play, or we think are going to play. So last week, we had plenty of options on the bubble. I went with Beau McCreary, even though I thought he probably had a lower points output compared to some of the other rookies on the bubble. But I feel like he's a reasonably safe selection.
And I think I think that's the right selection. And they're the players we've got to look at. Go, just say this guy will take a bit longer to get up to the value we want, but he will get there, as opposed to bringing in a Brockman or a Campbell, who, I mean, we thought Campbell would be pretty safe as well, but there are some players where you can look at them and think, yeah, I'm not convinced about you. And considering the carnage we've had, we've got to be sure of them to bring them in. And if that means holding off trades for a week, then do it, because otherwise, it's not good.
Well, let's keep talking about this, because we're talking rookies now. So while we're on the topic, who do we cull? If we're doing trades this week, who do we cull?
All of them.
Errol Goulden has been not great lately. He's been performing like a rookie normally does. Break even is all the way up to 86. He lost cash on the weekend. He lost 12 grand. He's $297,800, but he's playing, and it seems like he's probably going to keep playing.
Yeah,
do we cull him for someone who might play more, but will make us cash? Or do we need these guys on the bench or at our, M8 spot scoring? I cannot make a decision on this.
It's really tough, especially when it's someone like Goulden who like will now start losing cash because those early scores, those early really good games have dropped off, and he's dropped off in his performance. He's a kid; he'd be getting tired. I think he'll get a rest at some stage. They'll give him a spell, simply to get the body right. It depends on what trading Goulden out compared to trading say a Campbell out or Rowe out can get you. If it's the difference between getting a Bailey Dale to getting a Dayne Zorko, then you do it. But if it's if you can keep them, I think keeping them's probably the play, and then trading out the players that aren't playing just to increase the number of players, especially as we approach the buys, is incredibly important.
I'm glad you mentioned the buys, because one thing I don't think people have been super cognizant of is when trading in value picks or primos or whatever, is what buy they have. And I was looking at my team, and if I don't start trading around the round 14 buy, I'm going to be in some trouble. Brody Gundy, Max Warner out. Hopefully, I don't have the Sydney Swans players in my team still. Jordan, Oliver, Laird, Fremantle, Collingwood. Like all these teams, Adelaide, aren't going to be playing in round 14. And I'm not really traded around it. And it's probably an issue. It's in the 10 Commandments. Be cognizant of the buys. That was one of the rules. We got to start looking at this patch.
Yep. Yep, and then even the round 13 bye, you've got Essendon in terms of Ridley Merritt. You've got
Bulldogs.
Richmond, Jaden Short, Paddy Cripps if you've got him, Sam Walsh. The Bulldogs are out, so if you've got McRae, Bont, Daniel, we don't have Dunkley anymore, so we're safe on that front. Treloar. Brisbane, like there are like that one is going to be a tricky one as well. Just be aware of it, and make sure you are thinking about it, because it will bite you, and it bites people every single year.
Yeah, we got to just be trying to target probably. I mean, look at your teams, but it's targeting round 12, round 13 players. It is a concern. It is a concern.
Yes. But there's not a lot we can do. Oh, well, at least, sorry, there is a lot we can do. There's a lot we can be doing, but in terms of what we're talking about, it's very individual to your team. You'll need to have a look there. But sorry, we were talking about downgrade targets, who we can cull for some of those rookies. Don't take into account the rookies for their buys, because you need that cash. You just need the good rookies. So yeah, just the primos on that. I think that's pretty fair to say.
I think rookies. I don't really, with the exception of a guy like maybe a James Jordan or even an Errol Goulden, but not current day Errol Goulden, past Errol Goulden.
Were guys that I looked 1 and 2 Errol Goulden.
I want to just one more culling player I want to mention before we move on to who we're going to downgrade these guys to. Matty Flynn.
Oh, here we go.
And you've not. Oh. You and him aren't the best of friends, Patch.
I mean, look, we tried. It's been a rocky relationship. As people listening to not last week, the week before, the mailbag pod would know, I sent in a question that was basically incoherent screaming. That was the question. Because Matt Flynn had been dropped. I traded him to Tom Hickey. Tom Hickey had been injured. And then for the next Friday night game, Matt Flynn was back, and I didn't have any cash. I had $300 in the bank, and I traded Hickey to Flynn. And then the week after, Flynn was dropped, and Tom Hickey was back, and
it might be the worst sequence of traders in Supercoach history.
It was. And you know what? You know what? If I'd seen it like hours earlier, I probably would have gone Flynn to Hickey again. I probably would have done it. And, some Supercoach god somewhere was watching over me, because I did bring in Brody Grundy. I did VC him. It's okay. But all right, so what's been said about Matt Flynn is that he's not the first choice ruckman for the Giants. Shane Mumford, at 36 years old, weighing 110 kilos, in brilliant form, mind you, but he's old as balls. He's falling apart, held together with bits of tape. he's their number one ruckman for a side that's kind of developing, not a top 4 contender. I don't know what the play is, but he's their number one ruckman. They're going to play him as many weeks in a row until he falls apart, and then Flynn will come in. They're not going to play together in the same side, which means that Flynn's just in no man's land.
He's certainly an issue if you're running him still at R2. I think there's no issues with cashing him in this week or next week. He'd be one of the. It's weird. Because he's
so
not
weird.
playing, he's not losing money, but we know he's going to come in at some point and drop at least a 70, probably an 80, and make another 30, 40 grand in one hit. So
his break even's still 4. Like, there's still a lot of cash to be made from Matt Flynn. It's going to be dragged out and spread out because he's only going to play one in every 3 weeks. And it makes me want to just say very mean things about Leon Cameron, which I'm not going to do because I promised I wouldn't do it on this podcast. But
we're here for you. We're here for you as a community. I think he's fine to upgrade or downgrade or cash in when the opportunity arises.
Yeah. And
he's also perfectly cromulent to have on your bench, knowing at some point he's going to give you a little bit of a cash injection.
Yes, you'd love to think that during the buys he might be there for us. He might come in and play, knowing our luck. It'll be the week Shane Mumford's playing. But, I don't think you're in any rush to get rid of him. He's a nice little money pot there. We can just kind of keep him there and yell at our smell-o-visions every time the teams are named. And he's not in them. But I think that comprehensively puts the nail in the coffin. Never start a rookie at R2 ever again. And if I ever suggest doing it, please lock me in a padded room in a straitjacket and tell me not to come out until I've had a very good hard think about what I've done.
There are some positives, though. There's other rookies on the horizon. The number one man on everybody's lips is Martin Frederick from the Port Adelaide Football Club, $123,900 in defence. He has posted, what did he post? A score of 74 on the weekend and a score of 88 in his debut game last week. Break-even is negative 88, and he's projected to jump up $74,400 this week. That would push him already to about 200 grand. They're projecting a score of 80 against Adelaide, which seems like it's doable. He's your number one trade in target this week.
So what we've just said about job security, Port Adelaide are a top 4 side. Rookies in top 4 sides tend to have a tougher run at it. He's looked really good. He'd be very, very stiff to get dropped. Lachie Jones not being there might help his case, but I'm concerned by that. Like, I can see him very easily being on the outer in that side. They just need... it concerns me. I don't feel confident about this.
Well, who have they got? They've got Riley Bonner's available. Travis Boak's coming back into that side, hopefully this week. Zach Butters is a few weeks away still. Dersma, end of the year. Rockliff, we know, is out for an extended period of time. There are a couple of players floating around almost ready to come back into this team. Ryan Burton as well. I agree. It's a concern. The fact that they were playing Lachie Jones when they had a relatively healthy side and then replaced him effectively with Martin makes... I feel like they've got confidence in him.
Yeah, and I feel like
right.
He hasn't let them down, but it only takes one bad game and in a really good side, like... In a really good side, it's easy for him to be dropped and easy to fall by the wayside. He's still the best option this week, and in a backline crying out for literally anybody playing, considering that all of the other rookies are either not playing or they're scoring 26. But I don't love it.
No, I think if you're looking for cash, he's a good option. If you've got a stacked defense, if you've got like 6 primos in defense, maybe you can avoid picking him up. There are other rookies on the horizon over the next week or two. Let's talk about some of the other options we've got. We got Nick Murray from Adelaide, defender, mature ager, 102, 400. Break even is -39. He played on the weekend. He's not going to be a huge points scorer, but he is bargain basement.
He is. He's bargain basement. The Crows are missing a few down back. They kind of need that seasoned body. The fact that he played one game and then missed 5 weeks and then is back again, not a great sign for his job security. I don't know where he sits in that side in terms of his job security. I, again, don't love it.
Yeah, Talia's still out for a fair while. I feel like he's replacing Talia.
6 or 7 weeks. So him and Geordie Butts are holding down the fort. And just quick shout out to Jordan Butts for being the best defensive rookie of the year, just quietly.
He's been secretly pretty good, and guys like Supercoach George has been fielding him in the games where he scores 80 and 90, and that's why those guys are at the top of the rankings. So
I've
been
been
really good
him in the weeks he's been scoring 30 and 40, and then he's been on the bench for the weeks he's scoring 80 and 90. So that's
let's push through. Let's push through the pain. There's a couple other rookies. We don't have to spend much time on them. These are just guys on the bubble. I haven't included guys like Luke Parks, who's 133k. He's looks like he's going to be a regular feature in the Blues team. He looked damn good. He was on about 56 at halftime against the Bombers and then finished on 57. So he's 130k. Have a look at him if you want. We're looking at bubble boys. Liam Stocker, 186k, 186,500 for the Blues in defence, break even to 26. Hasn't been producing high scores. He's playing in a position that he's not suited to play. But if he keeps doing a reasonable job, he's going to stay in that Blues side. They're going to invest in him, probably a little too highly priced for my liking, Patch.
Yep, agreed. The fact that he's got a break even 26 already doesn't bode all that well. He also plays for Carlton, and I don't like players that play for Carlton.
Fair enough. Darragh Joyce, just wanted to shout him out again. He's on the bubble, 177,300, break him to 31. And maybe the fact that he's on the bubble, as he was last year or the year before, whenever it was, before he was ousted from that team, maybe him being on the bubble will force them to make a change, remove him so he doesn't make any cash, and maybe it's Highmore who has to come in and replace him.
Fingers crossed. Good friend of the podcast, the beloved Tim Mitchell, has traded Highmore out this week, which means hopefully he's back. So those two things combining, I'm praying brings Highmore back, but don't select Darragh.
Mark Keane from Collingwood, 158k, break even -13. Not a huge Supercoach scorer, but maybe a guy with some job security.
Yeah, they love him down at the Pies. They gave him a run last year, looked a little bit out of his depth, came back this year, looked a lot better, was good in the preseason as well. Will not score a huge amount, will score a lot of 30s and 40s. I think he's the rookie with the best job security of the bunch this week.
Yeah, maybe Riley Tilthorpe ahead of him, but I don't think he's in serious consideration for us.
No, I don't think Tilthorpe is in massive consideration. 202k, break even of -25, scored 100 and something in his first game when he kicked 5 goals. Won't do that every week. Got the showdown this week. Probably won't score a huge amount, but I think he'll play reasonably consistently. But I don't know if it'll be enough to justify selecting him.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't think he couldn't get near it on the weekend, unfortunately. All right, let's talk upgrades. We've talked all about downgrades. We've talked about trading. Let's talk as if we're going to be bloody trading this week, Patch. Let's start in defence. Stephen May, 408, 600, break even 5. Tim Mitchell, you mentioned him. He traded him out because they said he's out for 4 or 5 weeks. He came back 1 week later, scored 100 and scored 94, and then on the weekend scored 145.
Yeah,
he's a beast.
Oh yes. Yes. Broke is downgrading in the backline this week. Woke is upgrading in the backline this week because you're upgrading to Stephen May, 408k. You need stuff all cash. Come on down. Like this is the dictionary definition of what we were talking about earlier, and we want to get in these guys who are cheap. Stephen May is very, very good at Supercoach, very, very good at football for that matter. Number one priority for me this week is just getting him in.
The only contradiction here is that he's a Melbourne player.
I don't hate selecting Melbourne players. They play fantasy-friendly football. Oliver,
Yeah, but I
Petrarca,
mean more for
Gorn.
the buy. I mean more for the
Oh, for
buy
the buy, for the
situation.
buy. Look, yes. Yes, it kind of sucks. I think the circumstances are too good to ignore.
Yeah, and look, he's this year. He this is how he plays. I obviously I've got him in. We've talked about it before in one of my keeper leagues. He holds the team together. I watch him. He will pump out 140s. He will pump out 110s, and then he'll drop an 80 or a 75, which doesn't feel great. But I think over the length of the season, assuming he's healthy, he's going to be around the top 10 total points, players in defense, maybe top 12 at 400k. That's an investment I'm probably going to make. And it's one I want to make more than a guy similarly priced in Caleb Daniel. Caleb Daniel's, he's shown us that he's an uber-premo before. Stephen May ended last year essentially as an uber-premo. And he has shown this year that he is still maintaining that form, whereas Caleb Daniel, 412,400, break even of 51, he hasn't done that. He had a very, very good game on Friday, but that to me trended against what he'd been doing in the previous rounds. I don't know what is true. I would rather take the gamble on the more exposed form in Stephen May.
Yep. And we saw last year May, doesn't tend to drop those really, really bad scores. Daniel's done it a bit this year. I don't want to get we've both had Daniel already this year, so that kind of plays into it. I don't want to get bitten again. And you don't like trading in a player that you've just traded out, unless they're Matt Flynn. Actually, no, even if they're Matt Flynn, but you don't like bringing a player back in. I think May is the safer bet. I think he's the better bet. The only concern with May is that now Tomlinson has gone down with that ACL. Does he have to play more of a lockdown role? I suspect they'll bring in Tom Petty, or they bring in another key defender so May can play that role that he's used to, taking kickouts and being a bit looser and not taking the number one forward, or not. I don't actually know if he takes the number one forward or not, but not being strictly reliant on being a lockdown player.
Yeah, it's a good question. That's one thing that changes. That's a variable in this selection. I think that's a gamble I'm still going to take. You look at his scores from last year, from like round 4 onwards, he had 2 or 3 games below 90, and the rest were all higher than that. If we can back that in, that's tasty. Whereas Caleb Daniel, because obviously I have him, I've watched all their games. I didn't love what he was producing in the first round. 1 was all right, but the 3 rounds after that, where just didn't like his role. It looked like against Richmond, he was playing closer to what he did, the previous Daniel we've known. I don't know what's true. Bevo Salad, I don't know if I can trust him.
Bevo Salad. Bailey-Dale has kind of slid into that role, and why he's kind of climbed up that forward line ranking for me. We might talk about Bailey-Dale a bit later in that forward line mix, but it's a bit of a quagmire down there. Bevo Salad, I don't really want it. I'm more interested in the next player we've got highlighted on this list.
Bachar Houli, $468,700, break even of 61, 143 on the weekend against the Bulldogs. Since he came back, he's played 4 games for an average of 99.8, 2 scores of 80 or less, but 2 scores of 101 or more. Very cheap.
Very cheap for what he can offer. Got a bunch of games at the MCG. This, from here on out, because it's Richmond, of course they do. He's a good pick. You know what you're going to get with him. I'd rather we go May this week, simply because he's that 70k cheaper, and that 70k is going to be very useful. But you know what you're going to get with Houli. He's going to be consistent. He's going to be good. He's still cheap. If you are desperate for that different buy option, then I think he's If you're desperate for that different buy option, I think he'd be the player I'd look at this week.
My issue with him is we're talking about wasting trades on injuries and stuff, and this is a man who seems to ping calves and hammies like are going out of fashion. So I'm happy to avoid him myself, although I do appreciate that there is value there. And I'd rather cop a donut in the buy than risk having Bachar and having to use another trade to get him out, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll pay that.
Callum Mills, we talked about him last week, 528, 800, break even of 78. Just wanted to flag him because he turned up again on the weekend, 101 points. Just a guy that's cheaper than he was at the start of the year. Break even of 78. This is probably the cheapest he gets, or technically last week was the cheapest he gets, but this is this is the cheapest he gets for quite a while.
Yeah, I don't hate it as a selection. If it fits in with your buys, go for it. Yeah, he's a good pick.
And then finally, your man Aliir Aliir at 473,700, break even of 53.
Intercept marks. Just has them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And oh boy, do the lads at Champion Data love a good intercept mark. He's always had that scoring capacity. Didn't often see it in the ruck at Sydney because he's not a ruckman. But the last 4 weeks, 103, 104, 123, 106, just proving to be really, really reliable, really, really consistent. And I really like that. I think am I going to pick him? Probably not. If you are just down in the dumps and want a Hail Mary, I think he'd be a good selection. Um, I don't know. Maybe he turns around and reverts to 70s and 90s, but I just feel like he's hit his straps in that port side. They've found that role for him, and he's a good footballer.
Yeah, they basically have given him a role that's built for Supercoach scoring. I think, I'm sorry to whoever it was on the website that suggested him about 4 weeks ago before he went bang against Richmond and got his first ton for the year. I was wrong. You were right. He was a good buy. He's had 4 back-to-back tons. So I think he's a very interesting pick with a really, really nice role. And I think Port have plenty of tall defenders that can come into that side and play the lockdown roles. I think he's reasonably safe. I don't think they're going to ask too much of him. They kind of set up so that he can be that intercept marker and deliver from off the boot. So I think he's a solid option. Good one, Patch. Let's talk midfielders. Gee whiz, we are running out of time, but I like these extended podcasts. I think they've been going very nicely. Tim Taranto at $490,900. He is here primo. He's $37,000 more expensive than he was at the start of the year. He's averaging 101 points per game. Over the last 3, he's averaging 109, culminating in the 139 against Adelaide. Patch. We're talking about bargains. Is this guy the real deal?
Tim Taranto, I believe, is the real deal. Leon Cameron, however, is not. And I don't want a bar of Giants players ever again while Leon Cameron's coaching.
So I guess I'll ask you now about Josh Kelly, who's $107,000 cheaper.
Look, objectively, it's got just all the right signs written all over it. Like he's low in price. He's had a role change. He's back on the wing, back in the midfield, back scoring points. Like he's an exceptional player. He's capable of averaging 120, 125 for the rest of the season. Leon Cameron is just going to ruin him and ruin me, and I can't do it. Anyone, if you're out there and you're backing him in because he's one of the best midfielders in the competition, one of the best players in the competition, and surely Leon Cameron can't throw him forward, you're a braver soul than I to take that punt. I can't trust Leon Cameron.
Agreed. Speaking of Kellys, Tim Kelly had his best game for the West Coast on the weekend. Scored 131, 42 disposals, no marks. He's got the record in that category now. 452,000 break even of 62. Look, he's had not a great year. He's had 2 scores above 100, a 114 and a 131. Is he someone as a value pick we can consider sub 460k, or is he someone we just got to look past?
Nah.
Okay, are you going to say this?
That's the extent of my analysis on Tim Kelly. Just since he's gone across from Geelong when West Coast paid, their pound of flesh and 37 first-round draft picks and a ship full of wool into the port of Geelong, and whatever else they paid in gold and frankincense and myrrh, he's not done a lot in that midfield, and I'm not going to touch him with a barge pole until he's proven that he can be very, very good.
What about his teammate Andrew Gaff at $516,000, break even of 97, was really, really good on the weekend, has been close to like Uber premium Obo premium status in the past. Is he someone that is on your gauge?
Not on my gauge, but I think he's a decent selection. I think he'll be in that top 15 bracket by the season's end. He's really good value, normally pretty consistent from memory. He doesn't miss too many games. I don't think.
Except when he punches people in the face.
Which I've been assured by his primary school principal that he won't do again. No, doesn't miss many games unless he gets suspended. I think he's a good pick. I think he's solid.
I've got this name here. I don't think we even need to talk about it, but Ben Cunnington had a 145 on the weekend. He is also sub 460k. He's a pretty good footballer. I think
he's a great footballer.
Didn't Kingy say he was a top 5 midfielder in the game or top 10 player in the game the other day or something?
Kingy says a lot of things. He says a lot of things. And, every now and again you'll hit the dartboard. That one's, gone off to the side and hit somebody in the eye. Not sure Ben Cunnington. He'll have great games, good for that daily fantasy format if that's your thing. No, thank you in Supercoach. Nope. I'd be very happy watching highlights of him just throw people onto the ground who are trying to tackle him and handballing 70 meters. Don't want him in my Supercoach side.
I've got 2 more midfielders.
Yep.
Tom Mitchell, 508k, break even of 108. He's averaging 102 this year. He's pretty damn cheap.
Oh yeah, for Tom Mitchell, for 180 points in a game, Tom Mitchell, this is cheap, and this should be almost headline news. But he's been average.
He's been average but hasn't been bad.
Exactly, he's been what I wanted Paddy Cripps to be, and Cripps hasn't. But we're not going back there.
He's the 19th ranked midfielder this year, 28th ranked player overall. This is, I know I've said this about a few people, but this is about the cheapest he's going to be. 102 grand cheaper than the start of the year. Round 12 buy 2. Very friendly buy.
Yeah, I think that tips it over. I think he's the best midfield option this week, just because we know he's been there before. We know he's still going to score, even if it's a bad side. He's he's very good. He's not going to be that 125 averaging player. He's not going to be that top 5 player from here on out, but he's certainly got the capacity to be a top 10 player. He knows how to find the football. He's good at football. Yes.
And finally, and I'm just going to keep mentioning this guy until he spuds up, because, I was interested in him and I keep saying he's a decent option and people keep laughing at me, but he's averaging 113 points this year. Joel Selwood is 535 grand. His break even's 50. He's going to go up to bloody 600 grand. He's too expensive to pick. But give the man some credit. He's been a Supercoach stalwart for years, and he's doing it again.
I still remember, 2012, we were thinking, this is the peak for Joel Selwood. We're not going to be it's incredible that he's been doing this for this long. He's a goddamn warrior, and come 4 rounds left to go in the season, that's the time for the Hail Mary on Joel Selwood. Not now. There's too long left. He's incredible, but I would be looking at his teammates in Mitch Duncan and Cam Guthrie to last the season. He'll probably get a rest at some stage.
We really need to do a Supercoach Hall of Fame podcast. From 2009, he averaged 110.9 until he didn't drop below 102.2 in. He hasn't averaged less than 100 between 2009 and 2019. Then he had 2 shit years, and now he's back. The man is unbelievable. He averaged 121 in 2014. I just don't think we give him enough Supercoach credit in the pantheon of Supercoaches. Maybe we need to do some tier list videos.
Maybe. I feel like that is peak off-season content.
Let's move on. This podcast is going for so long, but we've got a couple of forward line options to talk about.
It's good to be back.
The Supercoach Brains Trust, which I'm a part of for the Herald Sun, have talked themselves collectively into Jake Stringer this week at $325,000, $100, break even of 18.
Oh boy.
I
Boy, oh boy, wowie.
I don't know. He's cheaper than Chad Warner, which might be something that's going for him. And he scored 92 against the Blues, 84 against Collingwood, shit game against Brisbane, 27, 86 and 124 in his other two games. So he conservatively, ignoring the Brisbane game, because that's what I'm going to do, his floor's about 85.
Look, there are worse selections. There are a lot of better selections. The forward line is a dartboard this year, but I think with Stringer, if you trade him in, you're going to have to trade him back out at some stage, because either he'll hit a form slump, he'll get suspended, he'll get injured, the Bombers will drop him because he's been in a form slump. Like, there are so many ways this trade ends so badly, and I don't want a bar of it. I also don't want the stress of having to watch Jake Stringer to see what his Supercoach score is. Like, if he just for your own mental health, I don't think it's a good idea. He's playing a reasonably friendly Supercoach role. They look for him inside 50. He kicks goals. He goes into the centre bounces reasonably frequently as an impact player and does good things in there. Picks up some tackles, picks up contested possessions, streaks out of the middle and kicks it long forward to Cal Hooker, who marks it and kicks a goal. Cal Hooker, third in the Coleman, didn't see that coming.
The All-Australian defender.
Could he be an All-Australian forward as well?
He'll have to beat Harry Mackay to the punch.
I mean, he could beat Harry Mackay at both ends of the ground. But anyway, let's not digress. Do not want Jake Stringer in my side. Do not want to have to comfort people that have traded Jake Stringer in and have to deal with the fallout of it. He's 325k, but don't do it to yourself. We don't have enough trades. No.
Dayne Zorko, $487, $900, break even of 97. He had the quintessential Dayne Zorko game on the weekend. He had 19 touches, 6 tackles, 5 marks, and a goal for 92 Supercoach points. He actually didn't have any frees against, which is the first time that's happened this year. So maybe that's not quintessential. Maybe I've gone too hard there.
That's the most atypical Dayne Zorko game we've had in years, him not giving away a free kick. I mean, look, I really like him as an option. I think he's one of the safest forward options from here on out. You've had him since basically the start of the season. What are your thoughts on whether or not people should trade in Zorko and the Magnificent?
I think I think if you want 92s or an average of 95, trade him in at 487k. My reason of starting with him was that I thought he was going to be in the top 8 for total points come season end. If he's healthy, I suspect that's going to happen.
I mean, it's not a high bar to jump over.
No, it is. But you know who can jump high? Shai Bolton.
Yes.
He's a forward midfielder swing. We talked about him last week, but 479, 400, break even to 66. He did it again. 121, 4 games in a row, 110, 110, 99, 121. He did it again.
Yep.
Averaging 110 over the last 4 games.
22 touches, 3 goals, just really good footballer and been a very good draft pick for several years. I think it looks like this is the year that he takes it to the real time, helped very nicely by the fact that the rest of the forwards are absolutely rubbish. I don't think he keeps up a spree of averaging 105, 110. I think he averages 95, and as we've just said, that's enough.
That's enough. He's a good buy.
He's a very good buy.
And I think he has a good buy.
Good-ish. You're not going to get him this cheap for quite probably until after his buy. So if you want to buy him at some stage, buy him now. Good selection.
We've said buy a lot.
Yes.
Jesse Hogan kicked about 700 goals, $310,000. I prefer him to Jake Stringer.
Leon Cameron. Leon
take
Cameron.
him off. Forget we mentioned him. Kysaiah Pickett was the last guy we wanted to touch on because, Patch, you love this man.
I love him so much. He's so good to watch. So good to just just the fact that he exists makes me so happy. Is he like he's the 8th best Supercoach forward or something for the year? Will he stay that way? Probably not. Just I don't know. I wanted to mention him because I really like Kysaiah Pickett, and I think you could do a lot worse in the forward line because he's going to play every game. He will tackle, he'll chase. They're throwing him in the middle and up on a wing here and there. Like, he'll score points. He's averaging that 85, and I think he does that for the rest of the year. If you want someone who can do it, like, there are worse players to pick at 417k.
Oh, it's definitely a fun pick if you pick him. It's fun. You get to enjoy
Yeah,
the highs and lows of owning a small forward that plays around the ground. I love him. I sat behind him and Stephen May at the basketball last week or the week before, whenever it was, and they gave them free jerseys to wear, and they looked at him and were like, that ain't happening, and didn't wear them. And I just thought that was sick. So
yeah. Well done. Well
that's
done.
respect.
The other one I want to mention who's not on the list, $444,000, Western Bulldogs, Bailey Dale. I spoke about him before, kind of in that Caleb Daniel role. Last 3 weeks, he's gone 129, 61, 112. Will not be incredibly consistent throughout the year, but kind of sliding into that Caleb Daniel role. If you want to roll the dice on the Bevo salad, he's averaging 91.7. I think that's unders for what he does from here on out. I think he gets to that 95. Will be a top 8 forward at that rate. Just one to mention if you're short on cash.
If you just want to chuck another dog in your team for another buy round,
I mean,
chuck him in.
There is that. You could do the Hail Mary league tactic of just saying, well, I'm just going to lose all my round 14 matches and I don't care. And you know what? That's fine. If that's what you're here for, win those cash leagues.
The other thing you can do with all of these players is not trade them in, make no moves and go, oh, in 3 weeks I'm going to trade in Lachie Whitfield, 2 weeks I'm going to trade in Jordan Ridley, Rowan Marshall, and Jack Gunston in 6 weeks when he's 300 grand. You don't have to trade this week either, which I don't think we've made clear enough. You don't have to.
No, and anyone still here an hour and 3 minutes later, you don't have to trade. There are, we're going to talk for a fair bit about these players that are on the horizon, and we probably don't have time now because everyone has gone to bed or
we can just
to work or whatever
tease
it is.
That for a future podcast.
Whatever it is you people do instead of staying up all night looking at Supercoach stats, living normal human lives that, God, I wish I could live sometimes. But there are plenty of players on the horizon. Dustin Martin as well will, if you don't have him, is very gettable very soon.
Jake Lloyd still getting cheaper.
Yeah, Jordan Ridley especially as well in that backline. Whitfield, there are some veritable guns dropping as opposed to kind of the in between players that we've suggested a little bit today in terms of your Kellys, your Mitchells, your Hauleys, etc. Have we rambled enough? Have we got any other tangents we wanted to go on?
No, I think the people have had enough of this nonsense, Patch, my friend. So thank you for joining. We've missed having you on.
I've missed being on. It is good to be back. It is good to be talking with you. It is good to be just screaming muffled into a microphone about randomly generated numbers. Not randomly. They correlate to real life. My brain stopped working.
It's still random. Hey, we should shout out, get your questions in for the Mailbag podcast this week. I think it gets recorded on Wednesday. Get them in on Tuesday just to be safe. Or if you're listening to this, it's going to be Tuesday. So get them in today. And the other thing I want to shout out is the Panic Room Live, which happened on Supercoach Facebook page. They got
the official Supercoach Facebook page.
The official Supercoach page and shared on the Jock Reynolds Facebook page. It's going to be happening, it looks like, for half an hour each night of whatever the lockout is for that round. Looks like Fridays for the next few weeks. We had Damo and Clarkey on the debut episode with Tim Mitchell. We're going to look to rotate that around. So keep an eye out. If anyone knows anything about WordPress and you're still listening, find out a way for me to carry that stream across to WordPress because Facebook does not like us stealing their content. Otherwise, head to the Facebook page like that and you'll get notified when we do go live, which it's awesome. It's super fun. Really looking forward to it.
It's these unhinged rants, but in real time, under proper pressure of you need to make decisions about your Supercoach team in the next half an hour, or everything will explode. 10 out of 10.
Oh, it's fantastic. And of course, the cheat sheet by Stady Matty is amazing. Around the Grounds by Baron Von Crow is the best piece of Supercoach literature in the land. People have started doing their own versions of it. Well, that's how you know it's good. And of course, the regular Panic Room as well. So, community, we got plenty of stuff coming out. We love you, Patch.
We
I
love
love
you.
you too.
I love you too, Lekdog. Love Telebeats for this intro and outro. We will catch you wonderful souls very shortly.
Yeet!